Everybody is doing a good job holding up the walls, making sure we are all safe. Just making sure. It's lonely up here. So we are discussing 72nd verse right now. So that's the last verse of this second chapter. So in the prior verse, Krishna gave the solution to attaining peace. So what's the key to finding peace? A good United Nations Assembly? A good G20 summit? What is going to give real peace? Krishna gave us three things.
Free from desires.
Free from?
Desires.
What kind of desires?
Material desires.
Material desires. Okay, so that's one. Free from material desires. What else?
The person who is not
No false ego. Okay. And?
not thinking about fulfilling senses.
Okay, so
Gratifying senses.
not thinking about gratifying the senses. Okay.
Fully surrendered to Krishna.
Huh?
Fully surrendered to Krishna.
Okay, surrender to Krishna. According to the verse, what do we see? One more piece. 71. Verse 71. Krishna gives three parts to achieving peace.
All sense of proprietorship.
Free of anxiety. Yeah. So
Happiness.
happiness. Right? You cannot be happy without peace. Right? And definition of happiness is to have peaceful serenity.
That everything is Krishna's.
That everything is Krishna's. So, in order to have peace, calmness, free of anxiety, it also means one must be fully satisfied. Right? Meaning, there's no lamenting or hankering. I want this, I need this, I wish this. Right? It means all of one's desires are actually satisfied. Then there's peace. Right? If I have an unfulfilled desire, can I have peace?
No.
I'll be agitated until I get that. If I want something and I don't have it, that's the definition of an unfulfilled desire. I want and don't have. Then there will be no peace. Because one will be left with this feeling of emptiness. There will be anxiety. Also, if I have something, but I know it's temporary, there also is no peace. Why?
He's worried about getting it.
I worry about losing it. I worry about losing it. And actually, the worry about losing it is greater than the anxiety of not having it. It's actually a fact.
Yes, that's a fact.
It's true.
If you ask a very rich person, they'll tell you their fear of losing is greater than the inspiration of when they didn't have it to get it.
Even when you are happy, you're always worried that this is short term.
This is short term. So this is the process. So now I said all desires are fulfilled. Right? That's the only time you can have peace, is when all desires are fulfilled. But Krishna is saying here, gives up all desires for sense gratification. Is that contradictory? So we know from a logical perspective, we have to have all our desires fulfilled in order to be peaceful. But Krishna is saying, give up all desires for sense gratification. Are those contradictory statements? No? How not? Why not?
There is no end of fulfilling your desires.
Huh?
There is no end of fulfilling your desires. But once you give up all your desires, then or you surrender all the fruits to Krishna, then you become peaceful.
Okay. So there's no end to your desires. But once you surrender all your desires to Krishna or your fruits, you become peaceful. Okay. What else? How do we reconcile these two issues?
There is no desire left when you are with Krishna, so it's satisfying by itself. So you don't have any desire left for those material things.
Okay, good. Final clarification. There's no desire left for
Material things.
material things. But are there desires?
Yes.
Desires
Yes.
to please Krishna.
Yes. Desire is to? Because the soul is active, it will always have desires. So Krishna is being very specific here. That we must upgrade our desires. If you are sitting in a middle class coach seat on a long haul journey and you have a chance to upgrade to business class, do we hesitate? Free, no charge. No charge. We'll take it like that. Right? So this is an opportunity to upgrade our desires. Actually, spirituality is about an upgrade. Sometimes we think about renunciation, austerity, tapasya, restricting the senses. Actually, spiritual life is about upgrading the desires. Not removing desires, because that's impossible. But actually upgrading desires. Because material desires will never go fulfilled. By definition, a material desire will leave you in anxiety. Either you have what you desire and you fear losing it, or you obtain what you desire and you want more, or you don't have what you desire. One of those three outcomes is there. And in all three, you are left with no peace. But why is it that then every desire we've had materially has had this nature? Every single one of them. Yet how come we cannot get rid of our material desires? Why we hold on to them so strongly? The senses are very strong. It's the presence of this false ego. I am the doer. I am the proprietor. As soon as I am the proprietor comes into the equation, there is no relief for the amount of stress and anxiety we will have. The proprietorship brings on responsibility. It's actually better to be, who has more stress in the household? Young child playing with toys or mother and father? Child has no stress, no anxiety. They're in bliss. But as soon as child thinks, I'm the proprietor of this house, what happens?
He'll be stressed.
So that's what we have done. In the arms of Krishna, in the shelter of Krishna, one finds actual peace. Because they have faith in Krishna's plan. They have faith in Krishna's provisioning. They don't want proprietorship. No, let it be owned by Krishna. He has the responsibility to manage it then. But I have faith. He is so loving and merciful that He gives to all of us, including me, unlimitedly. So then why I need to have proprietorship? Child playing with toys isn't wondering, will I get lunch and dinner today? They just know it's coming from mother and father's love. Devotee has that same confidence in Krishna. Same confidence. So they've given up all sense of proprietorship. No self-desires. Only desire to please Krishna. And in that way, there's actual peace. No anxiety. No fear. No disturbances. How many of us feel ever disturbed or have some anxiety or some stress? 100% of it. 100% of the time. that fear, that disappointment, that anger, that anxiety, that stress, whatever emotion, 100% of the time, it is due only, exclusively, 100% to my false ego. My false ego. I can lay blame elsewhere, externally. This circumstance, this happened, this person, this weather, this. But my disturbance is caused by my false ego. Because if I look at that same situation from the platform, I am spirit soul, I'm not this body, and I'm eternally surrendered to Krishna, that same situation does not cause any disturbance. The situation doesn't change, understand? The situation, the circumstance doesn't change. What changes is the lens by which I view it. That's what changes. You cannot change the world. You cannot change how people behave. You cannot change that, whether it's going to rain tomorrow or be sunny. That we cannot change. But what we have the extreme power to do is choose by which lens I'm going to look at this situation. Either from clear lenses, free of false ego, or I'm going to look at it through the lens of my false ego. So this is it's black and white. It literally is black and white. Every time. Even in devotional life, you'll feel some, unsettlement. That is false ego. That is false ego. Only false ego. And so, it's a powerful tool for us not to, beat ourselves up, but to recognize, okay, I have to work on my false ego. It's an opportunity. If we take that circumstance and look at it from the other lens, the answers become clear. So the only way to find peace is in this way. Give up all our material desires. Give up our sense of false proprietorship. And it all is anchored in our false ego. So that's the peace formula Krishna has given us in this last verse we discussed. Very powerful. So let's read 72, the last verse. We'll discuss a little bit. So somebody wants to read the verse?
That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. One can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. Katwanga Maharaja attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering unto Krishna. Nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after the completion of this material life. But Bhagavad Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of this material life. For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. There is no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. Since both of them are on the absolute plane, to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. Attainment of Krishna consciousness even during this life is immediate attainment of Brahman. And one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God. Brahman is just the opposite of matter. Therefore, Brahmasthiti means not on the platform of material activities. Devotional service of the Lord is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as the liberated stage. Sagun samvyatyayan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Therefore, Brahmasthiti is liberation from material bondage. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur has summarized this second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as being the contents for the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matters are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents for the complete text. Thus, end the Bhakti Vedanta purports to the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of its contents.
That's a nice summary purport Srila Prabhupada has given. So, the reason I gave such a long introduction, because this verse opens with, that is the way of spiritual and godly life. So we need to know, what is that? That is the verse prior that Krishna just spoke. Right? That says, one must be free. So when we talk about spiritual life, we talk about godly life. It's not about ringing a bell, chanting some mantras, putting some tilak on the forehead, pouring some neck beads. That is all external. It's about consciousness. That is spiritual life. Spiritual life is consciousness. Consciousness that translates into action. You know, a child is in the home and says, I'm really sincere in my studies. I really want to do well in my studies. I really want to do well in my studies. I want to get good grades. And then they're constantly playing video games and not studying. Is that consciousness? That's wishful thinking. Consciousness means conscious knowledge that translates to action.
Efforts.
Yes, efforts. We have to at least try. So that is consciousness. So spirituality is about here. Here is where spirituality lies. And this consciousness is not so complicated. It is not so, mystical. It is simple. I am not the proprietor. I am not this body. I am eternal servant of Krishna. These simple tools. Not easy, but simple. This consciousness in and of itself gives us the power to conquer the entire world. Not physically and become the ruler, but conquer the negative forces that we may encounter. It is the key to our strength to remain peaceful and happy in all these circumstances. Right? So, Krishna says that is the way of godly life. And what happens when we come to godly life? What does he say? Huh? We have another life to live. Prabhupada talks a lot about in this purport the other life to live. But according to what Krishna says just in the verse itself, what is the result of this acting in this way?
You get nirvana.
One is not bewildered. One is not bewildered. How many of us would like to be not bewildered? Actually, it is bewilderment that causes fear, that causes the anxiety, that causes distress. Right? So this bewilderment is achieved here. And if we are not bewildered, and at the time of death we are in this consciousness, what happens? Another life. More birth, death, old age, disease, adi atmik, adi bhautik, adi daivik. Is that what's waiting for us? If we are in this consciousness? No. What life awaits us?
Spiritual life.
And what is spiritual life?
It's nirvana.
What is nirvana?
You are not born again as in the material world.
Okay. So that tells me what I'm not. What am I? So what?
Soul goes to the Vaikuntha.
and does what?
Enjoys with Krishna.
Goes to Krishna.
Enjoys with Krishna. Enjoys with Krishna. Krishna tells 8th canto Srimad Bhagavatam that without the presence of my devotees in the spiritual world has no meaning to me. I only get pleasure seeing my devotees enjoy. This is the surrender that Krishna has. While he is the proprietor, his happiness and proprietorship is to give to all his devotees, not to keep for himself. In the material world, the proprietor keeps and the others lose. But in the spiritual world, Krishna's philosophy, so he tells Durvasa Muni, I can't help you. I, the supreme controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna, I, whose will can never be defeated, am helpless in this circumstance. Why? Because the will of the devotee is even higher than the will of Krishna's. The pure devotee desires something, even that trumps the will of the Supreme Lord. That's how much surrendered actually Krishna is to his devotees. But his devotees are that much surrendered to him. It's a two-way street of surrender. And that consciousness, that's what leads to this eternal real life. The life we are experiencing now is dull. It's full of trials and tribulations. But this spiritual conscious life that awaits all of us is actually the real life. That is the purpose we were created in the first place. So the question becomes, how long do we have to wait to achieve that? Prabhupada writes very clearly in the purport, how long do we have to wait?
Till we completely surrender to Krishna.
Okay, till we completely surrender to Krishna.
It can happen in a second, a moment, minutes, hours, or it can take lifetimes.
So it can happen in seconds, moments, or it can take
Multiple lifetimes.
So a very subtle statement Prabhupada opens his purport with. But if you always meditate on the first line of Srila Prabhupada's purport and the last lines of Prabhupada's purport, something deep and impactful is there. Always. So this has a couple of very important notes to make. First, this opportunity, sometimes I think, how do we know? What if it's like, how do I know what the spiritual life is like in the spiritual world? How do I know it's truly Vaikuntha? How do I know that I'm really going to experience? I have to do all of this, sadhana and service, and then with the hopes of something in the future that I can't see, nobody can prove it to me. Right? Sometimes we have this consciousness. But is that actually fact? Do we have to wait till the end of this life into the next life to experience this?
No.
When does one become liberated?
The moment he is Krishna conscious.
The moment he is Krishna conscious. Not the moment he dies. That is not liberation. Liberation is consciousness. It's not a geographic GPS coordinates of where I am. Am I here or am I there? That's not liberation. Liberation is consciousness. I am free from my material anxieties, my sense of proprietorship. So this liberated state, how many of us want to be in a liberated state, free of all distresses, anxieties, fears? We all do. But it's not something that we have to hope for theoretically will manifest in the future. We can experience it in this body, in this life. Rupa Goswami explains in Nectar, it's called Jivan Mukta, that even in the embodied state one can get the liberated position and experience this bliss and happiness undisturbed. And we have many examples of, you read Srila Prabhupada's life, you see what it's like. Yeah, externally, so many difficulties, so many challenges. But it was in the pure liberated state of life. So this is not something theoretical we have to aspire for and take on some great faith. By our own practice of spirituality, by Krishna consciousness, this experience will manifest for us. But there's something we should really, really worry about in this statement. We should almost be in a quasi-panic state when we read this statement. Anybody can guess?
Millions of.
Huh?
Just millions of births.
Millions of births. So what should we be in a panic state of mind?
Like we will ever get to nirvana, or like just keep coming, going back, keep coming, going back.
We might spend millions of life without attaining Krishna consciousness, but we can attain it.
So what do I want to know then? If those are the facts, it could happen at once, or it could take millions of lifetimes. So what should I be extremely eager to know?
When is the next time I'm getting this chance that I have in this human body today?
What is the next time?
Will I ever get this chance again?
Okay, so will I ever get this chance again? Yes, so we should be grateful for the opportunity.
What should I do that I never get this chance or be born again?
What is it that makes it wait a million lifetimes, and what is it that happens instantly? I should be very clear on this.
Not to forget Krishna.
Yeah, not to forget Krishna. But why? In one instance it can be instant, and in another instance it can be millions of lifetimes. That I should have great desire to uncover and understand. Because which category do we want to be in?
In a second.
In this second.
Guru, grace of Guru.
Yeah. By the grace of Guru it happens. Yeah. All these things you said, remembering Krishna. But let's understand something very important. We can come into this knowledge. We can have the greatest of fortune to receive this information, to be blessed by the potency of Bhagavad Gita, to be blessed by Srila Prabhupada and rendering service in his eternal home to Radha Kunj Vihari. We can be blessed on this Bhadra Purnima day to receive Srimad Bhagavatam. We can be blessed to render direct service to Lord Jagannath in this festival. So unlimited blessings. But if our consciousness doesn't translate into Krishna conscious action, we could be in the latter category. And that should really worry us. Because none of us are guaranteed, having heard this, to make sense. We have to put the effort in. Just because you get admission into, IIT or Harvard or some great school doesn't guarantee anything.
But even if you can pass.
You can graduate and still nothing's guaranteed. You have to do the action sincerely. So, and the number one reason why it's between in millisecond and millions of lifetimes what's the primary distinguishing quality? Faith. Why did the Brahmana have to wait millions of lifetimes for liberation, and the cobbler sitting under a tree was having liberation in the next life?
Because of the faith.
Faith. Because when Krishna was putting an elephant through the eye of the needle, who believed? And who didn't believe? The knowledgeable Brahmana who was studying Shastra. The man making shoes under the tree? Faith. How much faith do I have in what I'm being told? Krishna says, clear as day, no sense desires. Give up your false proprietorship. Give up your false ego. Then you'll find peace. And we leave here and we go onto our phones and doing this, that, and the other. How much faith we have, how strong our faith is in this knowledge. That will determine how quickly or how slowly we progress. There's no loss in what we have achieved. We have studied the whole second chapter now. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, it's a summary of the whole second chapter. So nothing is lost. But how much gain we get out of it? In whose hands is it? Ours. It is in our hands. To the extent I solidify my faith in these statements and make them the guiding principles of my action, then immediately one will find bliss and happiness. And so what are some examples that demonstrate our faith in our own circumstances? What are examples that demonstrate our faith in the instructions Krishna is giving us? What are some practical ways I can assess my faith in this knowledge? There's one principle. One. Let's see if... But there are many.
How many rounds of chanting you do?
Okay, let's start there. How many rounds am I chanting?
Surrender to
Simple.
the Guru.
Surrender to Guru. And if you're going to surrender to Guru, what does that
You
mean?
get the Krishna.
But surrendering to Guru means what?
Have full faith in him that he
Do what he says without asking or doubting.
And what is Guru going to ask us to do?
Anything.
But what is the principal thing Guru will ask you to do?
Krishna.
Chant holy names. That is surrender to Guru. Surrender to Guru is not offering dandavat pranams. Guru comes and I'm just lying in dandavat position for 7 days. That's not surrender. What is surrender? Following the instructions. Because I have faith. What Guru tells me to do is better than what my mind tells me to do. That's the definition of surrender. My free will, I have the free will to choose. But I say, you know what? I have been irresponsible with my free will. Better I give my free will to Guru. And you tell me, please, what to do. And what is Guru going to tell us to do? Chant. So, if we want to evaluate how strong my faith is, one practical thing, because faith is something I can't touch, I can't get a ruler out, right? It's not, but we can measure our faith. How? How sincerely am I chanting my rounds? To the extent I'm chanting my rounds sincerely, it means I have faith. To the extent I'm not, I'm putting my faith in something else. This is how actual simple Krishna has made this process. He's so loving and compassionate. He comes as Gauranga Mahaprabhu and says, just chant the holy names of the Lord nicely. And from that, everything will manifest. So we have, if we want to boil it down, yes, there are other things that can kind of include our faith, but if we want to boil it down to one principal, primary avenue, it is the faith I have in chanting. Because to the extent that it's there, it means I have faith that I am not the proprietor. I am not the doer. I am not this body. And to the extent I don't have faith, I am not in chanting, it means I have some work to do. I have some, but at least I know, right, where I need to focus my energies. Because surrendering to Guru, surrendering to Krishna, surrendering to Srimad Bhagavatam, surrendering to Radha Kunj Vihari, rendering service, all of that, the manifestation of that surrender is increased faith in chanting. Not increased faith in even Krishna. Increased faith in chanting. Why? Because that is Krishna's instruction to us, and that is Guru's instruction to us to chant. So the fruit of my service, the fruit of my study, the fruit of my association, the fruit of filling my belly with prasadam, the fruit of that is increased faith in chanting. If that's not becoming the fruit, okay, then let us diagnose why. Because it means we have some short circuit, some wire is crisscrossed. Right? We were testing a microphone last week, if the microphone's not working, we have to troubleshoot it. We can't just keep yelling into the microphone and hoping it'll work. We have to do something. And check it. Which Gaurav Prabhu is an expert at. So it worked great. But the point is we have to troubleshoot. So if all of my seva, then we have to figure out, okay, how I can. Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote Markina Bhagavata Dharma, it is an exquisite presentation of the inner chamber of Srila Prabhupada's heart. Like what he was really deeply feeling. Because why? It was written in a private diary. It wasn't meant to be published. It wasn't written for like a purpose. It was an internal reflection, having spent 38 days on a steamship, having suffered 2 heart attacks, and really his faith, I'm sure, was shown to the greatest extent. And sitting in the Boston Harbor, he writes this exquisite poem in Bengali. You should all read it. It's so sweet. And there he presents his qualification to carry out the order of his guru. His guru said, you go to the West and preach. And what did he say his qualification was? In that poem, he says he only has one qualification. He says, I have no knowledge. He says, I don't know how to speak to these people in a way that they can understand me. These people are so attached to Maya that it seems hopeless to me. He says, I have been called Bhakti Vedanta, but you only can make that meaning actually come out. He says, I have no qualification. But he says, I have one qualification. He doesn't say it, but he says, I have one thing carrying me. And what was that? Faith in the chanting of the holy names. He said, I have nothing else, but I do have faith in the chanting of the holy names. And let's see, how far did that faith in the holy names take him? We are all the beneficiary of that faith. We are all the extreme beneficiary of that faith. So, we should have a healthy, I emphasize healthy, amount of fear. What if it's millions of lifetimes? Because along the way, we can get swept away and completely lose what we have. So we should have a healthy fear, not a debilitating fear, a healthy fear, or I can say it in a positive way, an ocean of gratitude for the gift that we have. And that gratitude, that faith, it's shown by one metric. What is that metric? What is the one thing that is the indicator of our faith?
Sincere chanting.
Sincere chanting. That's it. That's it. In Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, we get the explanation of what a Kanishta Adhikari devotee is, what a Madhyama Adhikari devotee is, what an Uttama Adhikari devotee is. These are markers, beginning, mid-level, highest state of bhakti. It's not how many verses you have memorized. It's not, I have 200 verses, okay, I'm a Madhyama Adhikari. I have 500, There are two markers. Because if we do, everything else will... How are we going to break this sense of proprietorship? How are we going to break it? How are we going to surrender? How are we going to believe in Krishna? How are we going to have faith? How are we going to break our false ego?
Chanting more and more.
How are we going to break our attachments to sense enjoyment?
Chanting.
Do I need to continue? These are the facts. This is the... Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments, questions? We have some time. Yes?
So sometimes when people become old, they get dementia, they get things, that prevent them from having the kind of consciousness that we desire. And what happens to our Krishna consciousness in these cases?
Yeah, that is why, spirituality is not a retirement program. We should take to Krishna consciousness in our youthful, healthy, exuberant state. And begin purifying the mind. And in that state of full surrender to Krishna, if dementia, Alzheimer's, some of these, brain disorders manifest, no problem. That is Krishna's plan. I have faith in Krishna's plan. Krishna will make me remember him. So, we have... Actually, Prabhupada gives the guarantee. He says, if you follow this process, you chant your 16 rounds every day, you follow the 4 regulator principles, and you just associate with my society. He says, I will personally come and take you back. He says, I have a backdoor entry. I will personally come. If you forget, I will be there to make you remember. Is this recording? So we have faith. And I have seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand where someone is not prepared to think of Krishna and somehow something arranges and Krishna comes to their mind. So we have faith. Krishna, we may forget Krishna, Krishna will never forget us. So just, keep chanting, keep training, keep working on this purification, and it'll happen. Okay? Any other questions or comments? Everybody knows what to do now?
Prabhuji, in spiritual world, do you have any kind of responsibilities or anything after that? Do you have any kind of responsibilities?
Yeah, you have to bring your resume, apply for jobs, and yeah, you have one responsibility: enjoy serving Krishna. That's it. No, there's unlimited activities, unlimited variety of activities, all centered around serving the Supreme Lord. So it is full of bliss. Our responsibility right now is to shed our false ego and false sense of proprietorship and material desires, which is really hard, right? Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, I'm just beating this point, but I'm going to keep beating it until at least I believe it. What's harder? To shed our false ego and material desires, or to chant our japa? But actually, what's harder?
Ego.
I can get myself to chant my japa, right? I can make it happen. I didn't say attentively. That's a whole different level. I just start chanting with a desire for attentively, of course. But actually, chanting our japa is much easier than becoming free of our false ego. So if we want to become free of take the route that's going to make it happen. It's actually the only way to make it happen. You cannot become free of false ego with just studying, because that's knowledge, but not action. Remember, consciousness must translate into action. I can walk around, I'm not this body, I'm not this body, I'm not this body, bam, run into a wall, I'm not this body. That's not consciousness of I'm not this body. That's foolishness.
That's also key, right? So I also keep on telling my mind that I am not a body. So
Stop telling your mind I'm not a body. Start chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That, keep telling yourself that. Of course, I'm speaking a little bit. Yes, we have to keep reminding ourselves I'm not this body. But more importantly, keep reminding ourselves and keep engaged in chanting. Listen, you give 10% of your day to chanting. To come to 16 rounds is nothing. We create all kinds of barriers and obstacles, but it's nothing. It's 8.5% of our day. 8.5% of our day to achieve this. It's nothing. But the mind will give lots of reasons why it cannot. But it can be done. And if I have faith, it'll happen. And if I don't have faith, guess what? It won't happen. It won't happen. So this is the indicator of our faith. Other questions?
So
Yeah.
chanting, while driving also you can chant, right? So,
You can chant 24/7.
while driving also.
That's included in 24/7? But your japa should be separate.
So what is japa and chanting?
Ah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's understand, we are in the training process. Okay? So our spontaneous love for Krishna has been covered. What's it covered by? Our false ego. So the spontaneous natural desires is covered. So we are in the processes of awakening that, to uncover that. When we uncover it, you'll not count your japa, because you won't be able to stop it, because it's so sweet and so attractive. Just like you don't have to train yourself to eat lots of gulab jamuns at the dinner table. It just happens because you're spontaneous. You don't have to work hard at that. Just do it. Chanting is like that, actually. That's our natural state, but it's covered. So we are what we call the Vaidhi sadhana stage. In that case, there are some regulated practices that will bring out this spontaneous love. Understand? So yes, I may want to, just chant. That's where we want to get to. But it's going to take some regulated practices to get there. And what is that regulated practice? That is our japa. So chanting on our beads in a concentrated place. Not when I'm multitasking. That is our japa. So that, Prabhupada has given us the dosage. You chant 16 rounds. But that's the minimum. That we should do in a fixed state. Meaning just focus on my chanting, not one hand in the bead bag, one hand on the phone, one hand in the bead bag, one hand on the steering wheel, one hand in the bead bag, one hand on the spoon cooking. No. One hand in the bead bag, one hand pounding on the faith, attentive. That's how we should chant. That's our japa. But then, after our japa is done, we can be chanting while driving, chanting while cooking, chanting while doing everything, singing about whatever natural comes, right? But we don't count that chanting in our sadhana. Understand? Because that sadhana is the core. Just like if a doctor, you go to a doctor and you're sick, he says take 2 pills morning, 1 pill at night. And you say, well, no, I want to take 1 pill in the morning and none at night. Do you do that? No, you take according to the doctor's dosage. Dosage is meant the appropriate amount of medicine to cure the disease. Right? So this is the dosage that has been given to us to overcome this false ego, to overcome this material energy. Right? So I have to do to that. But then if I do more, that's best. That's even better. Right? So our japa rounds we should do in a concentrated state. Yeah, because trust me, in your concentrated japa also your mind will wander everywhere. It will wander to, I had bubble gum in 3rd grade, and then, I think day after tomorrow is going to rain, and I wonder what the humidity is like right now, and then, I have to call this person. Your mind will go, and that's even while we're trying to, that's okay. Just keep chanting. Keep chanting. Practice, 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 practice. And soon you'll become better and better at it.
Probably if we use digital counter somewhere, we go and we are sitting and we are not doing anything and chant and using digital counter. Is that equivalent to chanting on beats?
It's good. So my recommendation, based on what I've been taught, is get to 16 rounds one way or the other. Get to the quantity quickly. Tomorrow. Be like Katavanga Maharaj. Now is the time. So get to 16 rounds. If that includes having to chant here and there, okay. Then work on improving the quality of your chanting. So quantity, then quality. What does quality mean? So the more we can chant during the Brahma Muhurta time. which is 2.5 hours before sunrise, approximately 4:30 to 6:30 in the morning. We have a morning japa call every day. And what's that do? Just helps inspire us chant together. So you join this call. And you chant. Maybe in the beginning you can chant 2 rounds. Okay?
What time you start?
You can start anytime, but whoever joins, but usually around 4:30 the first one. But people join at 5, 5:30, 6. Usually by 7, 7:30 the call ends. So you can join anything. We'll post it in the WhatsApp group so you can all join. And so like that quality of morning japa, that's like the best, right? But we have to make our way to that, right? So in the ideal state of japa, we chant all our japa in one session. Again, we have grihastha responsibilities, we have some obligations, and so we have to 2 after shower, 2 after breakfast, 2 before you get to the office in the parking lot, 2, fine, no problem. Get to 16 rounds. And then start working on bringing that quality to a state. Right? So that's how you can. Sometimes there's, I'm not chanting properly, I'll just chant 4 rounds. You'll not chant properly until you get to the quality. Because again, every time we chant, we are purifying the heart. We're cleansing the heart of the false ego. Okay?
I have seen they use those electronic contracts.
Yeah.
Long time back.
Yeah.
15, 20 years back.
That's what Prabhuji was asking, yeah. Yeah, you can use those. I mean, again, like I said, in state, if that's what's helpful, go for it. You have no problem. There are circumstances, you're traveling, things happen. Yeah, they're very useful. I mean, I've seen elderly people who cannot hold japa beads, right? Those are perfect. Because sometimes holding the japa beads so the counter becomes very functional. Right? So, depending on our circumstance. So, use them. Use the counter if that's what it takes. But get to chanting 16 rounds. That is my begging of all of you.
What is the reason somebody has spent years trying to understand, read philosophical books like Bhagavad Gita and other stuff, but still don't practice?
Ego. That's it. I have a better idea. I'm just giving it to you blunt.
Ego.
Ego. I know more. If there's humility, one will take to this knowledge. So, and again, I don't mean the ego in a derogatory term. I mean it as a factual statement of our conditioning. We all have conditioning. Right? So, but ultimately, I surrender when I realize I don't know. There are instances, of course, where there are, practical difficulties of doing this, but that's in a far extreme minorities. I'm speaking about for the vast majority. There are always going to be exceptions to that.
My question was, I think I didn't
Okay.
able to say it properly. Like somebody knows that this is how it is, and I got to do the practical, and now it's all that philosophical discussion, knowledge, and all that is over. Now he knows for sure that now I have to do his practical way, and he's not doing it. What is the reason? I'm not talking about the path or something. I'm just saying he knows that I have to do it some or the other way practically, and all the intellectual discussion is done, and my mind is ready that this is what it is. But why is he not able to do it practically?
It's exactly what you just said. I know, but I don't know. If I know for sure that I'm going to Hawaii in 3 weeks, I'll not just think about preparing, I'll prepare. I'll do things in accordance to what I know is coming. The measure of my knowledge is the action, not the words. right? If I know, I'll give you a material example. I know exercise is good for me, but I don't exercise. Do I really know?
Piece of information.
I don't have strong faith in that. Otherwise, it would translate to action, right? So, the translation to action is the indication of my faith that exercise is good for me. Because now I'm doing it. If I'm not doing it, yeah, I know it's good for me, but I have definition of other things that are more important to me. And ultimately, when it comes to spiritual knowledge, my false ego is what prevents me from acting on the knowledge I've acquired. Look, we've seen it, right? You can acquire this knowledge forever. I mean, people can give full classes on Bhagavad Gita, all the philosophy. They've got it locked up and perfectly distilled. But it's not translated in action. I have a better idea. So that is often, again, I'm speaking again, there are going to be extreme circumstances where there are others, but for the vast majority of us, it's my ego. Right? The humility is an extremely powerful force. Whatever obstacles I have in my spiritual life, and I don't deny them, they're real. They're real. Life is not easy in the material world. Those are real obstacles. Humility and enthusiasm. Those two things are so powerful that they'll overcome whatever obstacles we have. And my enthusiasm in some degree is faith, right? I'm enthusiastic for the things I'm faithful in. So they kind of go hand in hand. But this humility and enthusiasm, they're like rocket fuel. Rupa Goswami explains in Nectar of Devotion. These two things is what propels one very fast in devotional service. So that's why, and that should be our concern. Because otherwise, as Prabhupada writes, we could hear this stuff for millions of lifetimes. But we have to translate it to action. It has to translate to action. Remember the false ego, remember the surrender of free will. It takes humility to say, I am not good with my free will. I am surrendering my free will to Guru. It takes a very humble. It's easy to say externally. It's very difficult to manifest that consciousness in your heart. Very difficult. Just like it's easy to say, oh, Hare Krishna, Dandava Pranam, Prabhuji, Dandava Pranam. That's easy to say. But to actually have a consciousness of Dandavats. So, if we remain humble in our approach and with this enthusiasm, there is no other obstacle to our good chanting. We'll say my job, my this, my that, my everything, but those aren't the real obstacles. Those aren't the real obstacles. Those are the mind's obstacles. And if you want help in chanting, just pray hard to Srila Prabhupada. With great sincerity. Srila Prabhupada, I am fool number one. I need to develop the faith in chanting. Please give me the faith in chanting so that I chant. Just beg to him, and he'll make it happen for me. powerful Srila Prabhupada is. He will make it happen. Because he can give what he has. He has faith in chanting. So beg for him that. Okay. I was not expecting to talk in chanting today. So today is Bhadra Purnima.
Can I call everybody because they're something you really hear about the significance of that?
Yeah, I don't have much to say, but yes, of course. Any other questions while we wait? Comments? Who is ready to start chanting sincerely? One? Srimad Bhagavatam is going to bless all of you. Do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. I gave my father every excuse in the book why I couldn't chant. He's sitting here. And somehow we have the great pleasure every morning while he's here. We chant together in the morning. It's like, I can say, the highlight of my life. My father wakes up and we chant together. It's very sweet. It's because of his blessings. Okay, so today is the full moon day in the month of Bhadra. So we know Srimati Radharani appears on the Ashtami day of this month. So we had that great celebration. And on the Purnima day in Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains that one who gifts or receives this Srimad Bhagavatam on this day is basically guaranteed to chant the rounds nicely. We can talk about liberation, but that's useless. In the light of being able to chant our rounds nicely, that is actually liberation. That is being free from the material energy. So, it's a very auspicious day. So Srimad Bhagavatam, it is non-different than Krishna himself. It is the literary form of the Supreme Lord. It is so valuable. If you read just one line of Srimad Bhagavatam every day, your life will become perfect. Honestly, I can say it'll become perfect. It's so potent, so powerful. It's auspicious to receive Srimad Bhagavatam, of course, on any day, because when is it inauspicious to receive the Supreme Lord? But today is a day that is especially auspicious to bring Srimad Bhagavatam into your house. How many of you have Srimad Bhagavatam?
Today I have received.
You received one today?
Today JK has gifted me.
Oh, see? Hare Krishna. So now you have...
So I'm coming here, he's going to my house to give a gift.
Wow.
My wife is receiving.
Very blessed. So, I can tell you, even if you have Srimad Bhagavatam,
You have to come for the installation.
you can consider, my wife sometimes wonders why I bought another set today, because, actually, honestly, I have 5 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one for each member of our family. One cell phone for the whole family is not enough. Everybody wants their own cell phone. If we're going to have our own cell phones, how we cannot have our own Srimad Bhagavatam? So, but I actually bought it for my son Arjun, who'll be going to college next year. He doesn't know. So, my older son in his college room has Srimad Bhagavatam. You should carry Srimad Bhagavatam wherever you go. And you should give your children their own Srimad Bhagavatams. They should have it in their rooms where they sleep. Think about the spiritual energy. They're sleeping at night, often in a stressful state. Mind is rambunctious, particularly as they grow up. Having Srimad Bhagavatam, so powerful. So, you know, just because you raise your hand saying you have Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't mean it is not an opportunity actually, and I'm being very serious, to consider bringing, if you don't have, you should absolutely bring Srimad Bhagavatam into your home. It is, I mean, I could go on for an hour about the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, which we'll do when Prabhuji welcomes Srimad Bhagavatam into his home. But it is the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge, and it's explained that if everything in the world was lost, but Srimad Bhagavatam was preserved, actually nothing was lost. If you put on a weigh scale, on one side you put all the opulence, all the wealth of the whole world, on the other side you put Srimad Bhagavatam, which would tip the scales? It would be Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's very, very fortunate. So if you'd like to bring Srimad Bhagavatam into your home, again today we have how many hours left? We have 3 hours and 32 minutes remaining. I think you posted on the WhatsApp group, you can put an order in, and then it will be delivered to you or to whoever you choose to gift it to, if you like to gift it to somebody. And nice feature is everybody is kind of gifting it to each other. But consider, even if you have a set of Srimad Bhagavatam, I would strongly urge you to consider bringing a second set and a third set, however number of members of your family you have. Honestly, we are +1 at this point in our house. But I had one in my office and one at home. So powerful. So I am not asking you to do something at least I haven't done myself. So, but consider bringing Srimad Bhagavatam into your home. Again, if you don't have Srimad Bhagavatam, today is the day. And if you have, today is also the day. So you can, again, if you have, from a payment perspective, you can pay, over months, even over years. If you cannot pay and you have strong desire, speak with me, I'll find somebody to buy it. I'll buy it for you. But if I buy it for you, it comes with some conditions, so I warn you ahead of time. But don't let that be a barrier, but just take Srimad Bhagavatam home. Sometimes we put this, where I'll keep it, where I'll do all that. It's just Supreme Personality of Godhead. Figure it out. There is no real barrier. Make it happen, because it's so powerful. And I can guarantee you, your life will change forever, bringing Srimad Bhagavatam into your home. And if you really want to have faith in chanting of the holy names, being in the presence of Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting in the presence of Srimad Bhagavatam, so potent, so powerful. So, I'll be brief in the interest of time. You have a question?
Just have that call.
Huh?
If anyone wants to join the reading. Anyone wants to join the reading. The reading call.
Oh, yeah, we have a weekday,
Monday to Friday.
9:30, Srimad Bhagavatam call. So anybody would like to join, I can also post in the group. If you can join 9:30 to 10:15, 10:30, and read Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And very, very nice way to systematic. I think already in the 4th canto, already completed Chaitanya 5th canto. 5th canto in full. So, but it's a great way to be systematic in your reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, it is also a wonderful opportunity. And if you are doing that call too, I encourage you to read from the book. It's often a crutch to read from our phone, to read. Again, practical, limitations setting aside, sometimes it's just a necessity, but if you can, even once in a while, reading from the book is very, very powerful.
So what is the difference between Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita?
So Bhagavad Gita is considered like, so the Bhagavad Gita has all the principles that Krishna wanted to explain. So the essence of all of the Upanishads is considered like the essence of that. is in this. So all the principles are explained in Bhagavad Gita. Now, how they are actually put into action is shown in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a compilation of different pastimes and different stories of how these principles are applied. And so we learn by observing, right? So the law school analogy is this has all the laws, this has all the cases in which the laws are shown. So in law school you have the law books and the law journals. That's kind of the parallel. Srimad Bhagavatam, it speaks directly about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all the pastimes and all the activities are related to Krishna himself. He's directly spoken about in the 10th canto, but in the first 9 cantos also, through his different devotees, through his different expansions. And it gives us wonderful examples of how to live perfection of life, applying the principles from the Bhagavad Gita. So they're kind of read actually in parallel. One can consider this sort of the beginner, this to graduate studies, and there's also that level, but you can actually read them in parallel as well. Very, very powerful. It's 18 volumes, 12 cantos, 18,000 verses, pure nectar.
The reading class is, or the call, is it something that happens on a once a week basis?
Every day, Monday through Friday.
Every day, and do we need to be there every day, or can we?
You can come in when you can.
When we can,
Yep.
as we can.
Yeah, just join when you can. You don't need to advance notice or anything. Just kind of show up as you can.
Okay.
And then they go through a rotation, everybody reads. It's really nice.
So Zoom call probably?
Some mornings I could, some
Audio,
mornings I can't.
free conference call. The same call, I think, is the japa call, right? Yeah. So the morning japa call that starts. Mataji, can you post an invitation in our group? So like anyone wants to join that group, they can click to join. So that japa call happens, and then that same conference logistics is used for the
9:30 to 10:30, Monday to Friday.
And Japa call?
Is because 4:30 you can start, and anytime you can join anytime up until probably about 7:30. So anytime in that window you can join. And you can join for 5 minutes, 1 hour, whatever you like. It's audio, so you don't have to be, don't have to have your hair combed, or I don't have no problem with either, right? So don't have to worry. Just join, and it's nice. We inspire everybody and each other to chant together.
Was 9:30 the only time for that call? Or does that have to be any other time?
No, that's it. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, okay. So anybody would like to bring Srimad Bhagavatam now? Anybody has interest? You can.
I can get it from my friend.
You'd like to get one? All right, how do you want?
Very well.
Thank you. Anybody else would like? Don't worry, we have unlimited sets, so don't be shy on this very auspicious set. So again, you can place your order from the link. I think it's in the WhatsApp group. You'll get it, and you'll get it likely by tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.